either. All right, so we're on 9.3, vertical and horizontal shifts of trig functions, okay? So in 9.2, we were working with just stretching and compressing, right? So A and B. Now we're bringing back H and K. So your H and K is your plus or minus value, okay? Your H and your K is telling you whether you're going left, right, up, or down, correct? Things to remember, your A affects your Y, your B affects your X, H affects your, and K affects your Y. That's what's gonna cause, that's what causes them to change, okay? Your amplitude is the absolute value of your A value. That's because amplitude is distance, and distance is always what? Positive. Distance is always positive, okay? It's just asking you how far are you from the axis of the wave, not the x-axis, but the axis of the wave, okay? Your period equals 2 pi divided by b, and then h is your phase shift or horizontal shift, saying left or right. Key thing to remember about h is that x's are liars. So it's always going to be the opposite of what you think for an h, okay? And then K is your vertical shift, whether you're going to go up or down. All right. So looking at this graph here, it wants us to graph one complete cycle of each of the following functions. So we have f of x equals 3 sine x plus pi divided by 2 minus 1. The first thing you want to do is think about what does the parent function look like. Okay. This is sine. The parent function of sine, we're at -1 and +1 and -1. It's going to be 0. So you're using 0, pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Those aren't going to change. Remember, those are our tables, right? For 9.2. And they were going to put in those values. So at 0, we're at 0. At pi over 2, that's our maximum. At pi, that's our x-intercept. At 3 pi over 2, that was our minimum, and at 2 pi, that's another x-intercept. So this is our parent function. And just like all other functions, parent functions is where it starts, and then transformation is where we transform and change it all up, okay? So also reviewing from our notes, your amp is the absolute value of your A. So my A is 3, so my amp is 3. That's how far now I need to be from my wave, the axis of my wave, okay? Your period again, it was 2 pi divided by your B, and our B is 1. So is anything going to happen? No, so it's still going to be 2 pi. That's how long it takes for your wave to complete, right? Your horizontal shift, that is going to be from your H. And our X is a liar, so even though it looks like it's plus pi over 2, it's actually going to be a left pi over 2 instead of a right pi over 2, okay? Your vertical shift is telling you whether you're going up or down, and we will be going down 1, okay? The best way to do this without a table is to plug in everything that you have. So the first thing that I'm going to do is highlight where I'm going to be starting, and that's based off of my shift. How did I shift? So I'm going to go left pi over 2, which is going to put me here at negative pi over 2. Okay, that's now where my cycle is going to start. Okay, and then my period tells me how long it's going to be. It has to be 2 pi long. Okay, each one of these tally marks here is counting by a 6. So if I want to be 2 pi long, that means I'm going to be counting out 12, right? Does that make sense? Each one. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this is where I have to end. Okay. Next thing I'm going to put into place is my vertical shift down. So my wave axis has shifted down 1 unit. So my wave axis is now going to be aligned here. Okay, I don't know why I can't draw straight lines. It's really starting to be real sad, but that was better. That was better. Okay, so I'm shifting down 1. Now everything else is going to set in place with the amp. All I have left to do is acknowledge my amp. I've used the period. I've used the horizontal shift. I've used the vertical shift, correct? All I have left is amp, and amp just tells me where I'm going to be, okay? Looking at our parent function and thinking about your parent function, on your wave axis, you have 3 intersections, right? Those intersections are still going to exist on this wave axis, but instead of being on the x-axis is now here, okay? So based here, I'm going to have one at the start, one at the end, and one smack dab in the middle. The middle of 12 is going to be 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Those points are done. Yes? Okay. Next, looking at our parent function, we have a maximum halfway between our first 2 intersections, right? Intercepts. So I'm going to have a maximum in between, which is going to be here at 0, correct? Okay. This is where your amp comes into play. It is not an intersection, it is a maximum. Our maximum used to be 1. What is it now? 3. So from here, I'm going to go up. 1, 2, 3. And there's my maximum. Yes? All right. Next, we have a minimum in the second half of our wave. Halfway. So halfway between here, I'm going to find my minimum. It's going to put me at pi. And my amplitude tells me how far down my minimum goes. How far does it go down? 3. 1, 2, and let me move my graph up. 1, 2, 3. Here is my wave. And there's my sine wave. So the domain of the sine wave is going to be from negative infinity to positive infinity. The range of the sine wave is -4 to 2. Okay, you're taking all the pieces that you have to create the graph. Yes? Did this make more sense today? Is it okay? I was like, or did I waste my time trying to reteach a different way? Be honest. Okay, this is cosine. It's going to work a little different. Notice here that it's 2 minus 2 cosine pi over 3 times x plus 1. This 2 is still your k value. If it bothers you that it's in the front, cross it out and move it to the back. It is still your k value. Okay, doesn't change anything. It's just there. In your mind, you're thinking about the parent function of cosine. The parent function of cosine, you still have 0. You're still using pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and 2 pi. Cosine, that's our cup. However, we don't have a positive cosine. We have a what? Negative. So it's going to be upside down because our A is negative. So instead of having 1, it's going to be at -1. I still am going to be cross my intercept. Instead of having a minimum, I now have a maximum. Still have my intersection, and I'm going to end at -1. Here's my cup still taking place. But it's now a negative cup. So that's where I'm going to be using it. So I'm using my negative parent function instead of my positive parent function. Make sense? All right.
So if it continues, that will go back up, right?
Yes. That's why I drew my arrows back up.
Right. So why wouldn't you use that? Right there.
What are you talking about? I haven't did anything here. That's just the parent function. Yeah, I haven't did the graph yet.
Did you cross out the K?
Huh?
Did you cross out the K?
I told you can move your K to the end if it bothers you that it's in the beginning. Okay, so your amp here, your amp is the absolute value of your A. And so the absolute value of -2 is 2. Your period is 2 pi divided by B. Okay, when we're dividing by a fraction, we're multiplying by its reciprocal. So our pi's are going to cancel out and our period is going to be 6. Notice how I'm in units instead of radians on my table, on my graph. Okay. Your horizontal shift, again, X's are liars. So I'm actually going to the left one. And my K is my vertical shift. And that's going to tell me I'm going up 2. So where is my starting point for my wave? And where is my axis for my wave going to be at now? So my starting point is going to be at, I went left 1, right? So I'm going to. And this is gonna be. Okay, that's all I asked was where my, okay? And then the period, so. I have to go 6 units, right? What's -1 plus 6? 5, so I have to end here. Okay, so now I have my window, my range of where this graph is gonna take place. All that's left to apply is my what? Amp, right? All I've left to apply is my amp. So looking at our parent function, here on the parent function, we have maximums and minimums, right? Starting at 0, we have a -1. That is a minimum value, right? We have a max value here, and we have a min value here. Does that make sense? So here's where I start, but I have a minimum value here. My amp is what affects my min and my max. So from here, I'm going to do what? I'm going to go down 2, and that's going to put me at -1. Okay? And it's going to be the same how I end, right? Because I also have a min here, and that's going to put me at 5, 5, 0. Yes? In the middle, I have a max. So halfway between these two, I have to have a max. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And my max value is 2.
Oh,
Okay? Remember, it's all based off of your axis of your wave, not your x-axis, but the axis of your wave. Okay? Then in between those are my intercepts. So they're gonna lie on my axis of my axis. So 1, 2, 3. Here, 1, 2, 3. And here is my yes.
yesterday we did like the point, so like, start at -1, like -1 to 0, that's our min, right? So we went up to 1 to the over. So like my point is like 1 above.
So that doesn't take into when we were showing you if you do the counting versus doing the math, it's not going to take into account your shift and your beat. Cosine, your sinusoidal graphs do not work the same as your linear quadratics. That's why you have to take into account either doing it mathematically or using the parent function to do the shifts with your axis and starting points. Okay. So it's either you're going to be using the table method that we did on 9.2, or you're going to be using the parent function method. But you can't just do as if when we had a quadratic, I shift everything left and right and up and down, right? What's slope?
How do we know the go up?
What? I didn't go up. I didn't use anything to go up. I used the fact that halfway between my max and my min is an intercept.
Okay.
So halfway between, I need an intercept on my wave. Yes.
So it's like, it's basically the same as what we were doing, but before you want to set it up.
Yes.
Like we can do that before and go back to what we did, you know?
We did the table on our notes, but if you were shuffling already.
No, but I'm saying like the only new part is changing where it's.
Yes, the new part from the only difference here is that we have a horizontal and vertical shift now. And that's going to cause us to change where we start and where our wave axis is. Okay, so really quick, the domain here is still negative infinity to infinity. What is my range now? 0 to 4. Okay, and then that would just keep going. I don't know if this made it better or worse, but hopefully make more sense. Okay.